We're gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order. We would like, if Reverend Hill, if you could give us the invocation for us, please.
Okay, right. All this pause. Gracious God, our Father, we thank you for another beautiful day. We thank you for the opportunity to talk and discuss business that relates to Washington. We pray, God, that your spirit be with us. Let us do the things that you have called us to do and be about the community business. In your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Hill, for that. Before we move on with our business for today, I know we have visitors that are here and present with us. We are asking each and every one of you all to please be patient, be very quiet. We're not going to be doing any answering questions or any kind of statements from the visitors. So we're going to move on with our business for today. And this is the reason why we're here, to have a discussion with Mr. Gross about the old school on Gordon Street. And we, along with some of the URA members, Mr. Gross, we have myself, Ms. Barbara Fulbright, and Mr. Bill DeGoldian. And we have from the city council, we have Councilman Hill and Councilman Cullors, and he says Councilman Newt gonna
We
make.
think Councilman Connell will be coming by, right?
Okay, all right,
May I make a statement at the outset?
yes.
We met on March 5th, and we agreed, the URA board, that this would be a small private meeting, 3 from city council, 3 from the URA, not a public meeting. From what I understand, the chair, her Adrian, on her own, called a full meeting of the URA today. And of course, it's been a public notice now on a public meeting. That was not what the board chose to do, decided to do on March 5th. So we're going to go forward with it. You know, I'm not going to change it now, but it was very inappropriate. You acted out of turn. You didn't have the authority of the board to do that. And I just think it's really inappropriate for you to do that.
We're gonna move on with Mr. Gross. Do you mind taking the floor, please? Just tell us what's what,
Hey,
why you're here, and we move along.
well, hey, thank you. My name is Bill Gross. Okay, I live in Camden County, Georgia, but I do developments in usually the southern half of the state, but I'm intrigued and I love Washington and would love the opportunity to work with you guys. So let me tell you what I do. I work in a very narrow field. It's called low-income housing tax credit developments. Okay, so here I'll make sure I'm not missing anything that Adrian might have. But so what we as the tax credit developers look to do is to work with communities and find opportunities to where we can build affordable housing. It's not just an opportunity for us, but it's an opportunity for the community. So I told the folks at the Rotary Club a while ago that state and federal tax credits, is the financing mechanism that we use, and that produces about 30 developments a year for the state of Georgia, approximately. Sometimes 28, sometimes 32. But that's including Atlanta, Valdosta, the big cities, Macon, Columbus, and what have you. So we don't write the rules, we just have to follow the rules. But if anyone in here is a CPA, I would challenge, I say challenge you, invite you, encourage you to look at section 42 of the Internal Revenue Code, because that's the guidelines that we have to use in tax credits, or what the state and the federal government tell us the boundaries are, right? So, as a baseline, now there are other programs for grants and for funding of properties, but mine is exclusively for housing, for rental housing, not home ownership, but rental housing. Now, I'm very fortunate in that I learned a little bit where I can I can advise or bring other ideas or concepts or connect communities with other departments within the state. But all I deal with is just rental housing, okay? So, you know, I know that there's been a lot of conversation about the old Gordon Street School, and I know that there's a lot of passion for within the community to redevelop it. And I understand that. And I wish that I had a mechanism to do it, to redevelop it, and it not be housing, but I don't have that. Now, I could take it and redevelop it into housing, but I don't think that's what most of the community wants. I can go and build on new property. I can go behind the old center, on land that the city's got, if the city wanted to do this. And when I say partner with the city in a capacity and build new units over there. We have to get into discussion about whether it's senior housing or family housing, and whether it's 1-story or 2-story. And of course, that I don't want to get the cart before the horse, but that would be a discussion that if we were to move ahead on it, we would get into. So this is just an informational meeting that is zero pressure, but you know, I probably did not do a good job of laying out the constraints that we have to work within, okay? So it's really, you know, I wish that we had some opportunity to do some other things with the tax credits, but they don't. And housing, I don't have to tell you guys, and ladies in the room, but housing is getting to be such a crisis everywhere that the state is really putting, and the federal government is trying to put more emphasis on housing, more so than probably anything, because you can bring economic development to your community, but the question is, where are the workers going to stay? Where are they going to live? And so that's kind of an overview. Adrian, kind of the summary is that the program that I work within is exclusively for housing, okay? So if we were to do if I was involved in redoing the old school, it would have to be for housing. Now, I do new construction too. We can take property, you know, across the street and do it if it's scored. I'm just making that up, but it could be the vacant property behind the school, and maybe that's a start. Maybe that brings enough energy and focus to the area to where you could get some grants or funding from some other you know, funding sources. So you know, that whether it's me standing up here or any other tax credit developer, that's going to be the constraints that we have, is that these state and federal tax credits based on Section 2 of the Internal Revenue Code are specifically for housing for people that make between 50 and 80% of area median income. So it's not market rate, it's for, so if you said that your housing authority here, most of their customers are going to be at about 30% of area median income, okay? So tax credit projects are geared for the 50 to 80%. So if you want to say 60% of area median income, for quick math, that's the target market, okay?
So, meaning, just so I understand, when you say 50-60% of the area median income, are you talking about what the rental cost would be per month? Is that what you're saying?
So let's just for easy math say that area median income in Washington, Georgia is $40,000, maybe $50,000. I don't know, $40,000 just for easy math. The target market, so 60% of $40,000 is $24,000. Okay. Now, there's always some adders. Are you married? Do you have any children? Do you know this and this and this? But so you could say that the target market would be for someone making, you know, $24,000 to $30,000, okay? So then you go, well, that's not that much, but when you think about people, making, $18 an hour, how is someone making 18, and that's good money, gonna survive, okay? So it's made for folks that are working, that are making typically somewhere really close to 60% as.
Okay, okay.
60% of every meeting.
So it's aiming towards a workforce type group that you were just saying,
It
18,
is a
$20 an
workforce
hour.
housing.
Yeah, it's workforce
So
housing.
affordable housing is squarely right in the middle, right on workforce housing. So it can be used synonymously. In fact, some folks, whenever, just giving general conversation, they go, workforce housing, well, that's affordable housing, okay? Anything, not to confuse folks, but anything 120% of area income or less is workforce housing, okay? So, hey, listen, if the opportunity presents itself here, great, we'd love to work. If not, I'll tell you everything I know how to tell and help any way I can, okay? So, I want to be a resource for your community, and, and when I say that, if I can't do it, and I know some program that might, and I'm not Mr. Know-it-all, okay? But I will certainly, it's, while we all have to make a living, if I know something that can help you, I'm not gonna charge for it, I'm just gonna say, hey, call this person, okay, and connect. But, I guess that's all I got, Haley.
Okay.
You got a beautiful community.
Well,
I'm
thank you
not
so
just saying
much.
that.
We really appreciate
It's
that.
incredible.
Yeah, I think, Reverend
Yeah,
Hill.
just a comment, going back to the statement about your vehicle to do a project. Certainly depends on that. There are other ways that, projects can get done.
Absolutely.
But your vehicle basically deal with tax credit.
That's exactly right.
But you can also build, if there's another property somewhere, you can and help Washington find other resources to build and yourself.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
your basic vehicle is tax credit.
So, I used to think, and sometimes if I ask people what is affordable housing or what is workforce housing,
Yeah.
I used to think before I got into it, okay, how cheap could I get the land? How cheap could I get the building materials? How cheap could I get labor? And how cheap could I borrow money? And all that together was building affordable. You can't buy things cheap enough and pay people cheap enough, to make it affordable. So the state and federal government created in 1986 the tax credit laws that allow communities that want workforce and affordable housing in their communities, because when I say it's a partnership, no tax credit developer can come to a community that he or she's not welcome in, okay? Because it takes resolutions of support from the city, okay? But the financing is the key. So I've referred to section 42, and I don't want to get real technical because I'm not a real technical person, but the law, based on the tax credit rules, is that these tax credits that the federal government and the state government are allocating have to be used for affordable housing, period. And so what I do when a tax credit developer, I'm a developer and a contractor. So whenever I get an allocation of tax credits, what I do is I create a partnership. I'm the general partner. I'm the one that's personally responsible for it for 30 years, okay? Or my son or my family if something happens to me. And for the operations of it, for the cleanliness of it, for the maintenance of it, for everything. But the money is coming from my limited partner. My limited partner is gonna be typically a big insurance company or a big conglomerate, like a Sherwin-Williams Corporation or somebody big, and they know that they're gonna be profitable they have been profitable, and they're gonna be profitable, and part of their strategic plan, their financing plan, is to incorporate a part of their portfolio in affordable housing, okay? So, so that's how, that's really the nuts and bolts on how it works. It's the financing that makes it happen. So when the state and the federal government, they go, okay, we're gonna give you an allocation of tax credits, you know, I'm signing documents, this, and I'm agreeing, and they're going to put it's called a LURA, a land use restrictive covenant, on that project. It says, for 30 years, it's gonna be affordable, okay? So I can't sell it, I can't do anything other than what it's designated for a 30-year period of time. Okay? So, you know, I hope that I'm, you know, I know that there's a lot of energy here and a lot of folks want to really make a positive difference, and hats off to all of y'all here. And I wish I had multiple programs that I could bring and make it all happen at one time, but I'm just fluent in my little space, but.
Bill, explain a little bit, when you say you're selling tax credits to a big investor?
Partnering. Really partnering is the technical term.
Okay.
Partner.
Yeah.
Partner. So what happens is, being an attorney, Mr. Bill, I create a partnership, and I'm the general partner. I'm responsible. You'll never see the limited partner. The limited partner is the equity partner. They're the big folks.
There's money.
Right. I'm the one out there picking up the trash in the yard, okay? So you'll see me. Of course, I have a manager.
Like when our Foxwood property was built here, I mean, I remember going over there when they built the first unit,
Right.
and it was set up for seniors to live in, and it wasn't classified as low income, but every year, I mean, I think it went several years, and then it was maybe sold, and I don't know how all that worked, but I just know the residents that I have at the center that go there. I mean, some are not, some are, I'm sure there was, you know, grandfathered in at certain prices, whatever, but I've had 2 or 3 that have had to move from there because every year it goes up another, you know, like $100 a month, not just a little bit. And they've got priced themselves for seniors that are on fixed income
Right.
to live there. And I mean, that's what it's developed to be.
Well, I don't own it. I don't
Right.
know who manages it. I don't, I can say
You
that
said it was, when you did something, it would be fixed for 30 years.
the ownership has to be fixed.
Right.
Okay? But by law, so by law, while this is not financed by HUD, there are some guidelines that fall under a HUD that we have to follow.
Right.
So the most any project can go up in any given year is 5%, okay? Now, and from my personal experience, the killer that we've had recently, in addition to operating costs going up, are insurance costs. So I don't know if y'all have insurance on your commercial business.
It's going up a lot.
But it's crazy, okay?
Employment.
Especially the vehicles.
The coastal region is worse than here because we have hurricanes going on, okay? But all I can say is, I mean, I can certainly show the city, if we get to the point where we're trying to put together an application, I'll show you what my rents would be, okay? And they're gonna be a lot less than market rate. But, so just so you'll know, most projects still have some debt on them, but let's say that this is a 12 or 14 million dollar project. If it was a market rate, that developer owner would have a debt of $12 million on it, and the debt service would be off the chart. So with the tax credit project, we may have a little bit of debt, but not $10 million worth of debt. So we still have debt service, still got insurance, just like everybody, still have property taxes, still have other expenses that have to be paid.
So
But
therefore your rent would be,
that's why the rents are,
Bring it
because
down.
they don't have debt service on it.
Right.
Okay?
And Bill, can you have a sense of what the rents might be? I know, we're only just overview here, but.
You know, I should have prepared better today, but if I told you $600 a month, I wouldn't be far off, okay? So, I don't know exactly, but,
Right.
and don't hold me to that because I'm
Sure.
just shooting from the hip.
Sure,
But,
And now, in this town, there's some little houses that are just nothing, they're $600 a month. People just, it's crazy. And people have to have a place to stay, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the cost of rent is definitely a lot, but the crying need here is, as you say, a place for people to stay.
Right. I've got a senior that came over today that hadn't been in several months. He was burned out of a house here in town, that was a rental, and his sister actually rented it, and he just lived there. So, of course, he had nowhere to go. And, I know we don't have a shelter or anything, but, there's not any Section 8 houses that are available, at all. So he just kind of bounced here and there. He went back to that burnt house and stayed for a couple of weeks in 2 rooms that didn't burn. That's how bad it is. He finally ended up with his sister in a camper, and he came back to center today. It's the first time he's been there in a while, and I asked him, I said, what's going on? He said, well, I'm just trying to find a place to go. He said, I'm not supposed to be out there with my sister now, and they found out, so I gotta go somewhere. He really doesn't have anywhere to go, And that's, it's sad that we're at that point,
Unfortunately, that story times probably thousands and thousands in the state of Georgia, okay? That's why homelessness is off the chart. And it's just, construction costs and development costs have gotten so expensive that, and interest rates too. So if somebody wants to buy and build and finance, it's just crazy.
Right.
And second piece of that would be, that's why it's very important that we have a collaboration.
That's right.
The city, the county, private industry, and as well as, your vehicle. So it's critical that all, the housing authority, all those entities, URA, and the table should really grow when you're talking about providing those services for affordable housing, workforce housing, homelessness, and so forth. So we really need to look at that collaboration vehicle. That's the key.
Great point. I use this analogy sometimes. Everybody wants to know, they go, Bill, what's the answer? And I go, there's not a silver bullet. Remember the old silver bullet?
Yeah.
But it's more like a 6-shooter or a 10-shooter. You got the bullet for the housing authority, you got the bullet for what I do, you got the bullet for the homeless. There's different, so there's not one solution. It's a collaborative effort of everybody getting their minds together and going, okay, let's figure out what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay? And you have to work each one of them. And home ownership is a part of it. Well, part of home ownership, and I'm not here to say that the state and federal government can answer all the letters, okay? But to the extent we can use the resources that they make available, we need to be as polished on our, when I say we, I'm talking about us as a community, y'all as a community. We need to be as fluent as we can so that we can ask for, apply for, get funding for home ownership, not only for the building of it, but for the infrastructure, for the roads, for rental assistance, down payment assistance. There's different things that your GIT community is getting educated on that can bring these things to you. But it's not gonna be, as you said, one extra, it's a collaborative effort of everybody. And I only do one little thing, okay?
Just one last piece on that, and what is going on in other parts of the country. They're working with private owners of land, like churches, homeowners and so forth, and bringing those partnerships. So one agency, maybe in the county, brings in so many dollars, but then the church has the land or something of that nature, and they build a collaboration. So we got to look outside the box. I think we've said that so many times. Got to look outside the box to make it fit for all of our citizens. Yeah.
Bill, you mentioned that there were only 30 or so of these grants available, something like that. Is that federal, state, or the total that might be available? And so different communities would apply for these tax credit grants. Is that the right definition, tax credit grant or tax credit?
I want to call it a grant, because it's an allocation, okay? So
Allocation of tax credits.
the math is this. The math is Congress allocates it based on population. And I think, I'm probably wrong, but $2.50 for every man, woman, and child in America. And so Georgia's got 10 million, whatever, they do the math on it, and they go, okay, here's your allocation, Georgia. And then Georgia, since they have a state income tax, the legislators have said, well, we're gonna have a Georgia tax credit also. So what it does is it makes the federal credit and the state credit collectively together, so that whenever I apply for it, I get, or any other tax credit developer, if they're in a winning score, then we get the allocation of both state and federal tax credits.
And there are a lot of tax credit developers going after these.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
So every year, there's probably 100+ applications throughout the state, and everybody's trying to get the best score, okay? And how do you get the best? You know, so I don't just go, hey, I want to go to Washington, Georgia, or hey, I want to go to Macon, or wherever. There's a whole scoring matrix that takes just about a PhD degree to interpret and to really mine out, yes. But, you know, once you haven't had a tax credit award in a while, okay? You can't go, every community can't go back every year after year after year after year, because the state wants to spread it around. There's a lot of different things that go into the matrix. One of the ones is the leveraging of resources. So if the city has a piece of property, or it has to be a municipality, it can't be a private individual given 5 acres. But if it's gonna take fewer tax credits to do it because there's no land cost, then I get extra points for that. And the state, they're awarding the community in a sense and giving them an edge for community participation. Okay?
So I guess you mentioned there's a scoring matrix that goes into an application you might submit,
Right.
but you're competing against 100 other tax credit developers.
That's right.
For maybe 30 grants statewide.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and then what is the deadline, or when does something like that have to be submitted?
This year, it is May the 17th.
Okay.
So it's May the 17th. And it's only, the applications are done once a year. And then we find out who, if you're a winner or a loser, typically the last week of October. Okay, so they go through the grinder. Okay, so the city has put together a GIT team, right? Are y'all a GIT community now, or on the way to getting?
Yeah, we are.
You are a GIT community. All right. So the state recognizes, to tell you how important housing is to the state. They see it, they get it, they've got all the demographic information. To become a GIT community, there's only 5 communities a year that are allowed into the GIT program. GIT stands for the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing, okay?
Right.
And they are your SWAT team for housing. So they are going to different places in the state, going to seminars, being exposed to programs. I'm only one of them, okay, but they're finding out about home ownership, they're finding out about down payment assistance, they're finding out about homelessness. They're getting trained to bring back good, clean, accurate information to the community so that decision makers can put it in place, okay? And because you're a GIT community, I get 2 points, okay? I say I did, but I don't tax credit because what happens is the state recognizes that if you're a GIT community, the city first, the community has made a financial commitment and a time commitment to make a difference. They understand they've got a team that is working together to try to make a difference.
So the housing, I'm kind of new to all this, I know, but the housing like Sims built, it's not one of those houses empty. Was that some kind of HUD program?
It was a part of it. It was the GET team again,
That's right,
working
that's
with
what I thought.
the city. And that's why, we keep saying that all entities, many entities need to be at this table. And
Right.
so with those houses, that was a part of the GET team. And there was resources or funding that after the sale to go and purchase or put together more houses. And those
They built a
resources.
lot of little
Yeah.
small dwellings in town, and I mean, all of them are nice little hounds, and I mean, they're nice, and.
They're very nice.
And
And
they're all full.
They're all full.
Yeah, they're all full, they need more.
And so, whoever did that program, I mean, I know he died, and I mean, that's a big loss for this town, but,
Well, it's still going on. We still have that going on. That's right.
Right.
so who does the building for
The
that?
GET team.
They have another building, right?
So what the GIG team is gonna do,
Yes.
one of the requirements to even become a GIG is to have a housing study done, all right? So before y'all became a GIG community, y'all had to pay to get a housing study. And then the GIG team, they live through a process to analyze the community. And they go and they look and they try to see what are the assets that the community's got, okay? And what are the needs, and which tool that they've learned can be applied to different, and collectively get people working together, okay? But anyway,
And I'll get you those dates when the GET team meets.
I think Ms. Harper has something.
So you mentioned a couple of things related to scoring matrix. One was the land coming from a municipality, the other was being a GIC team city or GIC city.
yes.
What are some other things that you can let us know?
If you will go on the Georgia, because I haven't got it memorized and I'm gonna miss something, but if you'll go on the Georgia Department of Community Affairs website and go and look for what's called the QAP,
QAP?
Q as in question, quantitative allocation process, QAP. That's what it stands for. And there's gonna be it's open, so anybody can read it, and then everything that I'm talking about the 9% low-income housing tax credit program is in there, including the scoring matrix, okay? So, one of the things is desirables. Well, we can't take a piece of property that's way in the woods and do it. You need to be near healthcare, shopping, daycare, and it's got a radius on it, so that's the scoring. It has undesirables. If we had a lot of junky buildings around it, I've lost scores, lost projects, or I say, did not get the award because in Brunswick, because the first time I did the application on the project that you saw, Mayor, or Mr. Deloven, I got dinged because there were too many blighted buildings.
Yeah.
So I took my scoring back to the city, and I said, hey, listen, we didn't get the award. And they said, man, we gotta get this place cleaned up. So they went to the property owners and they said, listen, we gotta get this place cleaned up. The next year, I put in for it, got the award. So, but anyway, the QAP will give you A to Z on scoring, okay? And I mean, it's good reading, it puts you to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Barber, you have anything else new from here?
No.
Mr. DeGoldman, you have anything else?
Well, I'll say that I have seen a couple projects Bill has done in Savannah. Both of them are old abandoned schools. Been abandoned 5, 8 years, something like that. They were repurposed into either condominiums or apartments.
Their apartments, everything that I've got,
Apartments, it's all right. But I will tell you that the surrounding neighborhood, which had gone sinking, declining, has come back. And I mean, the people in Savannah and the people in Brunswick, they sing the praises of Bill Gross's development. Just sing the praises. It's had such a community building effect. And, you know, if Bill if I think the city could get behind Mr. Gross, and, you know, he were able to qualify for one of these income tax credit awards. I mean, it's, what, it leads to investment of, what, 10, 14 million, not some huge amount of money?
It'd probably be like 14 or 15 million dollars.
It's not coming out of our pocket, it's coming out of investors' pockets. And they're getting, they're buying the tax credits to offset the profits they make. Am I right about that?
That's right.
Right. So it's not easy, but boy, it can just transform a community.
You said offset what? What tax? Did you say property? Not property.
Not, I was saying income tax credit.
It's
Yeah,
income tax,
right,
yes,
right.
it's income tax.
So I'm assuming you've seen the wish list that we came up with in our last meeting. Did any of those sound like something that could be included in a project that you would take on?
So, this is the ugly truth, okay, about 9% low income housing tax credits, is that I can include a little bit of community space. For instance, in Brunswick, I did adaptive reuse on a gymnasium that was part of an old school. And I donated about a 20 by 20 area with a bathroom for the police to have a precinct, okay? So the police, they'll pull a patrol car up there, they've got police on bicycles, and they use it, and it's great for the police, it's great for the neighborhood, it's great for the project, okay? You can spend a little bit, but if we had any accountants here, these tax credits turn into what's called eligible basis. And so they get their value from the tax credit and from depreciation, and it's got to be on residential rental units, okay? So that is now, do I know about a few other, I'm not the master by any means, but I do know of a few other programs that the state offers. But this is the thing about it. You've got some good things going for you. First of all, GIC communities get more awards on CDBG funds than non-GIC communities. Okay, that's a big deal. And the reason being, it's not just that the state likes GIC communities, it's that your GIC team become aware of other resources and they go, hey, ding, 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 we need to be applying for this, okay? So the state is more active to working with GIC communities because they know that they've got a team that's engaging, that's wanting to make a difference, okay? So your biggest asset right now for getting more funds is collectively, potentially, while the GIC team is going to be specifically about housing, they are going to have the ear of folks in economic development that may be able to bring resources to it. There's not a superwoman, okay? But, and then you get your GIC team and your economic development people need to cross-pollinate so that they're preaching the same language, because they're working for two different departments, and sometimes, you know, people work in silos. Sometimes they got a good intent, they're good people, but they just need to cross paths. And anyway,
Just to kind of add on, I think Mr. Gross is being very courteous in letting us know. He definitely wants us to have all the information that we need. But I think we need to also understand in our other conversations in terms of committees and so forth, that his vehicle that he uses to get jobs and projects done comes from tax credits. And the reason that this Gordon Street particular project will not qualify, because we tore down some of the tax credit vehicles in terms of the wings. And so when we tore that down, then you just left the two buildings, which is the gym and the or the cafeteria, some people call it cafeteria. So we have those two left. but what he actually does a lot is apartments or in terms of rental. And so we've got to try to bring all those other vehicles that he talked about, especially the GET team, Mr. Jackson here, get the ear of the county at this table, the housing authority, and put together. But the biggest piece, I hear him saying, that we have going for us, and we already know that, we have an established GET team already in place. We have a GET team that are doing good things, and I believe those income dollars is about $350,000. I can't remember the exact number, but that's a good place to start and continue to work collaboratively together. And definitely, I hear him saying also, if we need any more assistance, any more support, and so forth, he's willing to do that. But we've got to figure out how we widen this table and bring it, making sure that we're on board with those block rent dollars that are still in place. And one thing, I don't want to get too deep into this, but we have to continue to spend those dollars or reinvest those dollars to make sure we can apply for more. So.
Well, and a couple of things, and you're absolutely right. And, the housing crisis is not just in Washington,
Correct.
it's everywhere. So communities are doing exactly what you're saying, and they're going, okay, we got to get focused. We got to get our ducks in a row and go after it, okay? On the Gordon Street School, so what I was trying to do is to get it qualified as a historic structure, okay? We didn't get that, because what I was gonna try to do, instead of having just a bucket of federal housing credits and state housing credits, was have another little bucket of historic housing and historic federal, okay? And then it would have leveraged and had even more points, okay? All this is in the QAP.
The language barrier.
But we didn't get it. That doesn't mean that you can't still renovate it and use it. It's just not going to be eligible for the historic register. Correct. Yes.
So, I may have missed this. With all this other funding and tax credits and other people's money coming in, is there an arm for, going back to the wish list, is there an arm for private funding to step in and work alongside your project, not get in the way? Let's say you do move forward, and we feel like, I'd have to look at the wish list to pick something. First thing that pops into my mind is community garden. So if the community wanted to fund a garden, not get in your way, so that we can work alongside with whatever we decide is most important. Like, let's say it was a separate building for daycare.
Absolutely.
If it was funded privately, it could be,
Or with another grant.
Like you said, even if the parking stove's on the back side of it,
right.
it's still developed. It's a start.
Okay.
People see you working toward it.
Yes.
Right.
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 I'm just making up this, so don't.
Oh, I know, I know.
But if we took 5 acres and did apartments on it, okay? You could take the cafeteria and turn it into
Event hall.
something.
Event hall.
Okay, event hall. And that could be funded with USDA. Then you could take the gymnasium, and that could be funded with another grant.
With another grant,
And then, so if you've got, but I'm not fluent in that stuff.
Right.
I can give you a name of who to call, but that's, but as it relates to housing, I know a little bit more.
Right.
Okay. Let's do your story. And then, so I have the wish list if you need it.
Okay.
If y'all
Okay.
get bored and you want to take a stroll 2 hours south, we're doing a project currently now. So, there's a saying that sausage is a terrible thing to see being made, but it's enjoyed, after it's done. But we're doing a project at old school in Statesboro as we speak, okay? So we took the old Julia Bryant Elementary School. They built a new one next door.
Right.
And this one had been vacant for, let me just say, years, okay? And the school board went and asked everybody in their community, hey, you want this thing? And everybody goes, well, I want this thing. So I went to them, and in fact, the city manager there, I don't know if y'all know Mr. Penny, Charles Penny, great guy. But I went there looking for another piece of property, trying to get a zoning approval on it. He goes, Mr. Gross, I'm sorry, we're not gonna give you zoning approval. He said, but we do have a piece of property, would you be interested in? I said, absolutely. I went there to do a new construction, and the city manager goes, hey, I think the school board will give you this building. So I go to the school board, that very day, he calls the school board, we go over there, and they go, yeah, we'll give it to you. But you gotta buy a football field behind it. So I had to buy a football field. That's my phase two. They deeded, the school board deeded the school to the city, and the city through their URA leased it to me, and now we're doing it for senior housing. So what we're doing on that one, and we had to divide, Adrian, this is cool, okay? So one of the buildings, they had applied for a grant to have special ed kids in. So we had to subdivide the school property, and they got $1 million grant from the state to rehab that building. So they couldn't sell that building, they had to keep it. So we had to have a meandering line and a fence to separate what we were buying from what they kept.
And when you say that, you mean leasing, extended lease, or we're actually buying the property?
I say buying, excuse me, yes. The
Extended
city, we're leasing it for $10 a year from the city,
Okay.
for 50 years. But, and then we're building 3 new buildings. So we're using 3 old buildings, building 3 new buildings, transforming the campus and the neighborhood. So
And what are you doing with the football field?
That's what I was gonna ask.
phase 2.
Oh, that's phase 2.
I'm applying
Okay.
for another phase there. Now, I get, this is in the QAP, okay? Because it's a phased project, I don't get dinged, the city doesn't get dinged on having a project just awarded last year. When I say dinged, you get points taken away if a project's being developed within 5 years or 4 years or 3 years. So if it's a phased project, which means a master plan has been proposed, we could do the same thing over here, depending on what you guys wanted to do. But anyway, it allows a community to do multiple phases if it's a phased project. But your clerk over there can give you a report on the QAP.
She can read it.
My head's gonna pop off.
She can read it. She gets bored.
Yeah, if you get bored.
Mhm.
that's
Make
right.
it full. Okay.
Ms. Barber, I think we ought to, Newton and I ought to ask the city to help us with funding to go and take a look at that. Maybe make it a work session one day or something of that nature. The project he's talking about. So maybe we can.
Oh,
see if
go
the
down to
city-
Statesboro?
See if the city, yeah. See
Yeah.
if the city, we're really van.
Well, it sounds like this kind of thing will be in phases, it sounds like, not gonna do it all at one time, it'll take, one phase at a time, one project going, and maybe get that done, and.
Well, just like you're saying, asking, definitely can you do small projects and side projects, so forth. But to go down there on a day and set aside and see if how that project's going, make a 4-day out of it.
Yes, and if we want to do that, do we reach out to you to coordinate our visit, or?
Well, let me tell you what I would suggest, is call me if you wanted to, or you can call the planning and zoning director, or the city manager.
And stay on.
And I'll give you all their numbers, and you can call them and ask them what they think of me, okay?
Okay.
But to go on the site, I would probably escort you or have my folks escort you.
Good.
Okay.
I don't have to do that.
I say escort you,
Right.
Show you around.
show you.
Right.
Mr. Gross, do you have anything else?
I'm just Bill.
Okay.
Bill.
Thinking at me about that, but
So
sorry.
listen, y'all gotta, I'd love to work with you, if y'all get to a point where you want that, okay? And anyway, I'm trying to be as resourceful as I can. okay?
Okay.
So I guess another question, Bill, the city signed a contract with you,
Okay.
where that?
But it's depending on, it's a lot of contingencies.
Oh, it's wide open, it's
Yeah.
just a very general,
Yeah.
high level view, but there's a contract. And would you need a contract from the URA as well, to have, put the two together?
Well, it depends on what we're talking about. Now, I don't know if the old school is in play or if it's not in play. So if it's on the old school, if that's owned by the URA, then yes. If it's not, then no. But listen, part of what we do, Mr. Bill, is try to find when I say find a happy medium, we only want to do what the community wants, okay? And so, I want to, and that's why I want to be as transparent as I
Yeah,
can be.
exactly.
So,
What are the other sites that you have that possibly if we do get a committee together and get some funding to? So just a couple other sites, I know you have one
Did you
in
say
Savannah
something?
also.
In Albany, wasn't something in Albany?
Well, if, not in Albany, but if you're going to Statesboro,
Okay,
you could go to Pembroke,
Pembroke,
you can go to Hinesville, or you can go to Savannah.
okay, Savannah.
And
Slow down just a little bit so you
Pembroke.
catch that. I just want to make sure she catch it.
Hinesville and Savannah.
And if you
And
can
Brunswick.
send the address.
now, I don't know if y'all know any folks in Savannah. okay?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I would love for you to call some of the elected officials and ask them what they think about numbers.
Yeah.
Because in Savannah, the largest piece of undeveloped property is the fairgrounds property. So the city of Savannah bought the fairgrounds property about 10 years ago. And we went through the RFP, request for proposal, and they selected me to be their housing developer. So we have applied for a rural innovation grant for infrastructure, even though Savannah's not rural, the DCA goes, I think we're gonna do it. So we'll find out here in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
And so that's one of those other tools that's outside of what I normally do, but I brought it to them, okay? We could do the same thing here, but, so I will be there when I say the city's development, in a sense, probably for the next 5 years on that piece of property.
That's where the GMA conference, we go, and that's why it's critical that definitely we go there and get partnerships and learn what other folks are doing.
That's right.
So we're there every year at the Savannah.
Now, Savannah's a big city, they got a lot of funds, So talk about leveraging resources, you're gonna see this in the
Correct.
QAP.
Yeah.
But in Savannah, housing costs are such, and from a leveraging of resources, they are giving me, or loaning to me, I should say, almost $2 million. So that I get extra scoring points for, to be competitive in the state, okay? Now, why are they doing that? Number one, they're not a good community, believe it or not. So there's 2 points that I don't get. And you'll also read in your QAP homework that we get points for school systems. How does your school system fare here? Pretty good?
It's considered a good system.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Elementary, high school, and middle school?
Middle school.
Those are 3 points right there, okay? Unfortunately, I don't get any points in Savannah for schools because theirs are below the line. They're trying hard, but they're just not there yet.
That's surprising.
So, and they recognize it, and the state recognizes it, and they're trying as hard as they can, but anyway, that's
Okay.
what we do.
Yeah. Well, great. On behalf of the city, I want to make sure that we thank you very much for the information that you are given. And thanks for the opportunity to call you any time of day that
You call me.
And we're going to try, my colleague and I are going to try to get us some funding to come down here and spend a whole day with you.
Well, I would love to. I'd love to show you and I mean, this is, keep this in mind. When you go to different communities, the design of the neighborhoods have largely come the municipality. So if I take you to Savannah, you're gonna see a 3-story building that's
Yeah,
200 feet long, that's got 50 apartments in it. That's not what you want here.
right, yeah.
If you go to Pembroke, you're gonna see individual buildings that are townhomes, okay? Might be what you want, might be not what you want. If you go to Brunswick, you might see 1-story, I mean, there's just so many.
Right.
Right.
So based on what y'all tell me is what I would propose to put.
Correct. Yeah. Washington, we have 6 red lights. Savannah, we have 600, so,
Bunch of them.
so,
Bunch of them.
yeah.
We don't want to do that.
So listen, I'm fixing to boogie back to.
So Bill got up at 6 this morning to get on the road. He's having a long day, he's got a 5-hour drive to get back, so.
Did you get him lunch today? Have you had lunch yet?
We had lunch at the Rotary here today. I spoke to the Rotary. Very helpful.
Just want to make sure we definitely.
I usually eat at the big chick or big chick.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Okay.
Good to see you again.
All right, so that concludes our discussion with Mr. Rosa. We're gonna motion to adjourn. Will you do that for me?
Yes, I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, it's adjourned.
Yes.
So, we're probably gonna have a chance.